traditions like you wouldn't believe, many different faiths, many different sectors. We challenged our nonprofit community to get together for once. We set the foundations from our community all in one room. It was the first time they ever sat down together. We created a police foundation. We created other avenues for people to serve. Now, 2 years later, Newark, New Jersey is the #1 city in America for the reduction of shootings and murders over 40%. We can do whatever we desire. Emerson, if I could quote him, paraphrase him, he has a wonderful saying, "That only which we have within can we see without. If we see no angels, it's because we harbor none." What do you see when you look at Jerusalem? What do you see when you think of American cities like Newark? There is work to do. We are the beneficiaries of a legacy of struggle and sacrifice beyond what can be believed. We are no longer called upon to fight wars of independence, be they in Israel or the United States. We are not called upon to fight in a 6-day war or storm beaches in Normandy. We are not called upon to do civil rights marches or to stand and defend borders off Katyusha rockets. But we, with our resources, are called upon to use our moral imagination and come together with others and solve the problems other people say are impossible. And I believe the battlegrounds are those sacred places, those holy cities, where other people have resigned themselves to troubles and problems. Our battlegrounds are the cities of our world. Let us make Jerusalem rise again. Let us make Newark an example of who America truly is. This is possible, and I know our conversation today will be just about that. Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very nice. Very nice. Now I'm going to ask some questions to the mayors to keep the dialogue rolling, and then we will have questions from the audience. To both of you. In both your cities, because there's a high level of poverty, the tax base is weak. Because of that, do you think it best for philanthropy to experiment with new ideas or help shore up missing services? If there has to be a trade-off, how best do you leverage the philanthropic dollar?
Well, I definitely think philanthropy, excuse me, I'm a bit ill, can make a big difference when we talk about economic growth. I'm going to be in Boston this week, meeting with Professor Michael Porter that helped us a few years ago open a startup, a non-for-profit initiative called Startup Jerusalem. We invested a lot of philanthropy dollars first to figure out how to develop Jerusalem's competitive advantages. And now, after we've outlined culture tourism, we've outlined health life sciences, we set in motion to do some competitive analysis to other cities, and we've outlined areas where we could develop Jerusalem's competitive advantages. Then we realized that there are a number of leverages philanthropy could help in economic growth. Loans for small businesses. There are organizations in Jerusalem that are giving loans to young startups, young businesses, small businesses, and medium businesses. And that philanthropy dollars is crucial because the government cannot necessarily always do that. The government is not always in the right mindset, and there's very little flexibility in some of these areas for municipal government or national government to work. Sometimes my experience is that philanthropy could show the way, could show directions, new thinking. Municipal government does not have research and development money necessarily to invest in new thinking. And philanthropy, what's philanthropy? Philanthropy are business people sitting in this room with business-oriented thinking that have ideas, and the same way they have in businesses, and sometimes some of the breakthroughs happen outside of municipal government. And that's where I see the big challenge of partnership between philanthropy and municipal government. It could make a big, big difference. I'm coming from that area. And today, as a public servant, I've learned in the last 5 years so many things that it would have been hard for me to learn in the business, on the public side. So I encourage people to take a serious look at how to become leverage, how to become catalyst. And once those changes start happening, they take a life of their own. And the philanthropy it's less dependent on philanthropy. But that boot start, that initial phase, philanthropy can make a very big difference.
If I have to encourage folks in this room, it's a simple thing. First of all, you can't solve problems in an isolation, in a vacuum. And I'm a big believer now, I'm convinced that there's not an issue we can talk about in America where we already don't have examples of people solving the problems, not mitigating the problems or ameliorating the problems, but solving problems. So let's just use education. There's not a school in a city in the United States that doesn't have one model of a school that's taking high poverty people from disadvantaged backgrounds and sending them all to college. To pick a city, I can show you schools that are actually accomplishing that. So the challenge often for cities like mine or others is that you have islands of excellence, but how do you make them hemispheres of hope? And this is what we're trying to do in Newark. We're trying to find the best ideas that are already out there and innovate upon them, make version 2.0, and aggregate them all together. And we're challenging the philanthropic community to either help us start a new idea, start a new pilot, incubating an idea, and I can give you great examples of some things we're doing that. So I'm always looking for what I call the venture philanthropists, the people who have the courage to be first movers, to invest early. Or I'm looking for people that want to take the larger picture, and I'll give you the best example to stick on education. We all know charter schools are working in the United States, but the problem is, are the high-performing ones replicable? So we were able to convince some of the larger foundations in our country, from Gates to Broad, to Julian Robertson's foundation and others, to team up, come together, coalitions, and create one massive fund in a city. They actually picked 3, to see if you can take these schools and build them so to scale at such a quick speed that within a handful of years you could hit a tipping point in a neighborhood. In the same way that FedEx was a tipping point challenge to the UPS. If you never think about UPS, they were slow, old bureaucracies not doing and operating efficiently. But when FedEx came along and showed they could do things better, suddenly UPS changed. Overnight, they went and said, oh, we need overnight delivery. Let's start competing. And now you have a system of delivering mail in the United States that's far improved. So these are the ways we think of where philanthropy could make a massive difference, either in incubating ideas or trying to take a larger view and making massive change.
Thank you. Mayor Barkat. Has there been an over-reliance on philanthropy, either local or international? Is there a line that shouldn't be crossed? What limits are there on the public's responsibility or the role of the wealthy in a community?
Well, it's a complicated answer. I'll try to give it a few perspectives. I think that a lot of philanthropy that happened in Israel in the past was, give me the money, I know what to do with it, bye. And that wasn't exactly philanthropy. That was, from my perspective, giving some money and making sure that you're happy with yourself, but you haven't really exactly figured out if your money worked well. I like the phrase that the Mayor Booker talked about, which is venture philanthropy, because when you think venture philanthropy, you think about investment. You don't think about the giving, you're focusing on the return on the investment. And that kind of philanthropy must scale in Israel. We have underinvestment as venture philanthropy. We may sometimes have too much giving. Too much givings that sometimes cause great dependencies. I see, sometimes I see too many people that depend on philanthropy and they're used to getting all these fish rather than the rods.